Chapter 1. The End of the Rainbow. Jerry Pratt gunned the engine of the old Land Rover and gripped the steering wheel hard as the wheels struggled against the steep, muddy slope of Winsham Hill. "Come on, you beauty!" he shouted, as the engine raced and the old wreck slipped and slewed dangerously to one side. The vehicle lurched forward, tyres at last clawing into the dirt of the old farm track as Jerry regained control. "Geez, I thought you'd lost it," said Baz, who was sitting in the passenger seat next to him, his hands gripped tightly on the old metal dashboard. Jerry looked at his old mate and punched him on the arm, laughing. "Ha! You was well for it, Baz, you fat bastard. Mind you don't wet yourself on my front seat." He swung the Land Rover round on the gravel strip in front of the long copse of trees which edged the hill, then stopped and turned off the engine. "Don't know why you don't just use the track off the cricket pitch like any normal bloke," said Baz grumpily. "'Cause I ain't normal now, am I?" "Too bloody right you ain't." Jerry laughed again, pulled out his cigarettes and offered one to Baz, who shook his head. "Given up, haven't I?" he said glumly. "Abby doesn't like it, what with the baby here." Jerry rolled his eyes. "You want to watch it, mate. You're well under her thumb." "Yeah, well, it'll happen to you one day, Jerry. You just wait." "No chance. I'm a free spirit, me." Jerry grinned. "Yeah, that's me, free as a bird," he thought. "Poor as a frigging peasant, too." He lit a cigarette, grabbed his jacket, and climbed out of the Land Rover, looking around as he did. From up here they said you could see 5 counties, though he never believed it. Just crap made up by the tourist authority, he thought. And anyway, so what? What was the point of seeing 5 counties? They all looked the same, just fields. Still, he had to admit, this time of day it was a nice enough view. Maybe he should make a habit of getting up before 11. He turned back to look at the tree line. Behind the copse, which he knew was stuffed full of nice plump pheasants at the right time of year, was Cherringham cricket pitch, and behind that was Cherringham itself. Baz was right. That was the best way to get on to Winsham Hill, but it wasn't any fun. And also it was a bit public for Jerry's liking. Didn't matter what you did round Cherringham, always some busybody ready to stick a nose in, complain, find fault. So he preferred the back way, the quiet way, the less normal way round the village. Anyway, where was a young red-blooded good-looking bloke like him supposed to find his thrills these days? Certainly not up at the chicken factory turning roosters inside out for £6 an hour. One day he'd be rich and famous, and he'd build a big mansion up here looking out over the 5 stupid counties, and he'd sit on the deck at the back smoking dope and having beers with his mates, and the people of Cherringham could stuff it. "I charged the batteries, Jerry, because I knew you'd forget," said Baz from the back of the Land Rover, interrupting Jerry's dreams of a golden future. "And I didn't bother charging them, my old mucker, because I knew you would do just that," said Jerry. Baz held open the back door of the vehicle and offered up the 2 metal detectors. "Choose your weapon," he said, climbing out. Jerry considered. The Mark IV was heavier, but it gave off less background noise. The X-Pro Navigator was lighter, but fiddly. "Give us the X-Pro, Baz. Got a dodgy shoulder this morning," he said. "Lifting too many pints, I suppose," said Baz. "All right for some." Baz handed it over, and Jerry rested it on one side while he reached in for his boots. He watched as Baz picked up a spade and the other detector and went over to the crest of the hill and stood, hands on hips, staring out across the valley. "What shall we do, begin at the bottom and work our way up?" Boots on, Jerry grabbed his equipment, locked up the Land Rover and joined him. "Now, we'll start about halfway, I reckon, then work down." The top of Winsham Hill was rough meadow, and to one side was the track they'd driven up from the valley. Halfway down, the gradient softened and the land was split into fields of differing crops that went all the way down to the Avon Brook, a meandering stream that curved around Cherringham and fed into the Thames. "You see Low Copse Farm?" said Jerry, pointing down into the valley beyond the stream. Baz nodded. "Butterworth's place, yeah? That's the one. He reckons this strip of land has been farmed for a couple of 1,000 years. So there might have been old buildings down there. Correct. And tracks, roads, places where people sit, have a nap, drop stuff, lose stuff, bury stuff, hide stuff. Treasure, said Baz. Yeah, well, maybe, said Jerry, if we're lucky. You haven't been lucky yet, though, have you? No, Baz, I haven't, which is exactly why you're here. You're going to bring me luck, old son. And do half the bloody work for you, too, said Baz. Jerry slapped him on the shoulder. Baz was born grumpy and needed constant encouragement, he thought. Well, yes, this is true, but in return you will get half the bloody treasure when we find it. If we find it, said Baz. And even then we have to split it with Butterworth. It's his farm, Baz, his land. Well, don't seem fair to me. He just sits at home having his tea and we do all the work. Well, them's the rules. Yeah, if you say so, said Baz. But this is the third Saturday I've been out helping you, and I'm getting a bit fed up, to be honest. 3 Saturdays and no treasure yet. What is the world coming to? No need to take the piss, Jerry. I'm just saying, that's all. I know, mate, said Jerry, softening. So let's get started, shall we? Sooner we start detecting, sooner we get lucky. And so Jerry hoisted his spade onto his shoulder, lifted his detector, and set off down the hill to find his fortune.